Hey peeps, Erin Zemwari tuning in. So I was just having a really good conversation with an old friend of mine from back in the time I used to spend hanging out with a bunch of meditators and vegans, basically. And we hung out in an environment where there was a lot of body work going on, and there were a lot of people coming in that were recovering from sickness and illness, and our guru was pretty good at that stuff. And as a result of being around all that stuff, a lot of us that were around have actually now become natural healers, medical intuitives, etc. And she also works as a medical intuitive and has a nose that can smell everything as well. So, and that is actually the beauty of being vegan, and the horror of it as well, is that it does refine your senses. Also in the process of refining your senses is getting older as a woman as well, going through or hitting into perimenopause, and when the hormones start shifting around, totally changes your sense of smell. You are much more tolerant when you are younger of a lot of things, and there are things you don't smell as much, though I always had a pretty good sense of smell. And then, of course, when you're on the pill as a woman, or anything that's hormone adjusting, it's going to adjust what you can smell. And it's really interesting to watch this process of like getting older as a female and being a lot less tolerant to things that you just used to pretend they weren't even there. It doesn't mean you didn't see them. You just used to let them slide. And as you get older as a woman, you stop doing that because you don't care so much anymore. And you're not trying to find the alpha and make babies with him. And, you know, there's a lot of men out there who would rather date younger women. And it's for this very reason. There are also men out there who think that it's an incredibly interesting process to actually develop as a man alongside a woman who is going through this adjustment and who is becoming more radical in her approach to her own individuality. As we move forward into 2027, the time of the individual, the time of the enlightened, radical, self-responsible individual, like that's what we're all meant to be working towards in a way, and that's what we're all being carried towards. We have this weird crossover, and certainly my generation, the 40-somethings, which is also what my friend is, we're in this weird realm of having come from mothers that kind of had to get married in order to have a good life. And people are like, oh, they didn't have to get married. I'm like, the tag there was in order to have a good life. And I've talked about this in some of my other videos where I've talked about my mother grew up at a time when the only women who made enough money to provide themselves with a really good life without a man were prostitutes, right? That's like the 70s. You know, prostitution and porn was the way women who wanted to stay independent made decent money. The other women were sitting in small little flats doing shitty little jobs, getting paid fuck all. So keep in mind the conditioning of my generation of, I'm a Zennial technically, so that Gen X crossover around the 80s, 70s, 80s is you can be whatever you want, but you were still raised by women who were like, oh, you're going to get a man, you're going to have a team, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. So why are women of my generation so pissed? Do you really want to know? Do you really want to know? In short, it's this, and this is a quick summation. All of us have our trauma. Men's trauma is usually related a lot to the mother, and a lot of men will say, no, my dad was a dick. Yeah, but your mum stayed with him, and there will be other things that went on. I used to watch my stepmother, for example, say things like, you have a penis, you're automatically wrong, right? And it was like, you have sons. Like her 2 children were sons. And she used to say that to my dad, and my dad was a very tough man. But that generation of boys in New Zealand actually grew up to be pretty soft in a way. And there are benefits to that. There are some things that are really lovely. They're a little bit less drunken and abusive, hopefully. And they're a little bit softer, and they're a little bit more, I would say, empathetic at times. But they can also be softer in a way where they don't stand up for themselves, where they don't hold ground around women, where their ability to hold space has been weakened. Now, there has been a movement in the last 10 years, I would say, where we are starting to see men's groups haka groups, these things that teach like masculinity and bring it back forward. There are coaches out there, like I have some friends in that area who are bringing men forward to be men. If you work with me, I'm really brutal, and like a lot of my male clients do project the need for mummy love onto me. That definitely happens, right? And I'm a tough lover. I'm not taking that entirely on, and I have a tendency to watch it and then still be what I need to be to keep my individuality. And so there is a neediness that comes out of men where they need you to be the mother that never loved them the way they want to be loved. And absolutely this works the other way as well. And so this is where this gender roles thing that you're seeing emerge now. And there's some really interesting stuff on it. I was listening to, I think it's Alison Armstrong the other day, and she's a woman that was born in the 1960s. She's had a 28-year marriage that was successful. She had a marriage previous to that didn't work out after about 8 years. And then she started studying men. And in the process of studying men, she also studied how women behave in relationship. And she started bringing forward these ideas that you need to be this to support your man, and you need to be this to support your woman. There is something in the classic gender roles or the traditional gender roles model, which I think is worth acknowledging. If you make a woman feel unsafe, it changes her hormones and you will get less reproductivity. If you are a violent man, which is not actually something that Alison Armstrong talks about, if you are a gaslighting person, if you are doing these things, you are going to find that absolutely you are going to end up with a woman that doesn't want to have sex with you, that because she's terrified, that doesn't want to do all sorts of things, that can't reproduce, that like all of that is going to shut down. Well, here's the thing. Different women are looking for different versions of safety depending on what their trauma is. And so as a man, you're going to have to hack your way around working out what that safety is. Ultimately, at some point, maybe you lose your job and she needs financial safety. You now don't provide it. You are now not a man that provides her with safety. And sometimes shit happens. So that's just a flaw, a basic flaw in the gender roles thing, is you are now under pressure as a man to go out and find a job immediately in order to keep your woman happy and functioning and doing all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, here's where classic gender roles don't work. And it's funny that I'm talking about what the man has to do for the woman here, because what the woman has to do for the man, she has to be supportive. She has to be encouraging. She has to do all of these things. Now, look, ladies, note when you're henpecking your man because you're being an ass, right? Note when you're expecting him to do something for you that actually you should be doing for yourself. And this is where the gender role thing falls down. In order to get a great man, in order to get a great woman, you have to become radically self-responsible. And the problem with the classic gender roles is that they are an old system. They are really helpful for us understanding our unconscious bias to expecting the man to be a certain way, to expecting the woman to be a certain way. If you fill yourself up where you are leaky, and this is always my message, if you fill yourself up where you need love, where you need safety, where you need someone to encourage you. I mean, that's lack of self-confidence. What woman wants a man that doesn't have self-confidence? What man wants a woman that doesn't have self-confidence? Nobody wants to walk around holding your hand, patting you on the back, going, don't worry, you can do life. It's very unattractive from both angles. Men tell me I'm wrong. Women tell me I'm wrong. So if you expect that in someone else, in the words of Tony Robbins, and I don't use this stuff for much, you have to consider the man or the woman you need to become in order to attract the mate that you would like in your life, right? If you would like someone who's self-sufficient and in love with themselves and whole, you're going to have to become that. If you would like someone to hold your hand and you to hold their hand, stay as you are. But here's the catch. At some point, you won't have the energy to hold their hand. And then you won't be there for them. And then they will be disappointed. And then they will get upset because you're not there for them. And you have created a relationship and an unconscious agreement around filling each other up. And if you look over every relationship complaint you've ever heard in your wee ear from your mate or your friend or your mother or your whoever it is, you will hear them say, she used to do this and now she doesn't. He used to be like that and now he doesn't. It was really good in the beginning because X, Y, and Z. And you know what happens in the beginning of a relationship? People are really, really good at faking it, right? Because they want to be loved. And because they want to be loved, they fake it. Now, if they gave themselves love, if they filled themselves up on love, would they fake it? They wouldn't need to, right? They would be able to be themselves. And in being themselves, they get to be loved for who they are. You know, so many people out there are going, oh, well, you know, if my wife has been depressed for the last 20 years, if she would just make an effort to get out of bed in the morning. Has she got out of bed before 1 o'clock for the last 20 years? I would assume that it's probably going to be a massive effort for her to do that continuously, right? And you're saying, if she could just do that, we could have what we used to have. Well, for whatever reason, she's not doing that. And now you're asking her to do it for you. I work with people trying to help them fix their lives. And I learned a very, very valuable thing. My frustrations at people not seeing themselves is my shit, not theirs. And when I talk to them from that angle, when I talk to them from my frustration, all I am doing is telling them that I am frustrated. They are not hearing anything else because I'm not talking to them for them. When you want someone to get better, you need to want it for them, not for yourself. Because two things are set up there. One is, if they change, they may change for you. And then as soon as they get the result out of you that they want, be it to stop complaining in their ear, etc., they don't need to try as hard, so it falls back down again. As soon as you disappear, they fall back down again, so they're not strong in it because they used you as the crutch. Or worse, they do change. They actually do change. Oh my God, Dean, stop it. It means you're not nice, right? It actually means you're not nice. Because if a woman can't be natural around you, it's because you're not natural. I keep telling you, you're a reflection of what comes to you, right? So if you're not meeting nice women, it's because you're not actually nice. And so a lot of people are like, and I'm going to pick on you here. I'm sorry. You did it to yourself again this time. If you're putting stuff out in the world because you want to be loved, I do everything for them. Sound familiar? All right. I do everything. They get it good. Why are you doing that? Are you doing it for them? Are you doing it because you genuinely just want to give something without strings? Or are you trying to get something? Are you not confident enough in yourself to think that you're worthy of being loved without bending over backwards and self-sacrificing left, right, and center? Because I can tell you right now, the enmesher, and I've been that person, is a tricky motherfucker. And I'll tell you why. Because you will sacrifice yourself to the bitter end till the point where they're so over the pressure of what that means to find you lovely, to find you. It's the ultimate trick. I'd rather a narcissist that's an absolute cunt to me, to be honest, because I can tell you this. I know what they are, and they, on some level, know what they are. But the enmesher, they are the ultimate denier, right? I'm the good guy. I'm the nice woman. I did everything for that man. And I have been that person. You don't want a nice woman. You want a real woman. And a real woman doesn't want a nice guy. She wants a real guy because that's what's masculine. And we're so sick of the fake, nicey, needy shit. That's what we're sick of. Real women want you to turn up and be men. They want you to turn up and be whole. They want you to turn up and be ready to have radical conversation with them, not try to make everything fucking nice. Life is not nice. Life is beautiful, but it is beautiful because it is a little bit of everything, because there are sweet moments in all the gravel, because the gravel teaches you something so you can get to the sweet moments. But if you fake it till you make it, you may find you end up with a fake life. You can practice something. That's a bit different, right? You can practice with someone. Hey, I don't want to be a needy, polite motherfucker. Right? Man, I'm going to swear a lot in this one. I don't want to be needy and polite, right? I want to be myself, but I want to be myself without causing harm and without just being an asshole entirely and completely selfish. Cool. So we need to be able to have really honest conversation, and we need to be able to go, hey, we're getting a bit heated here and we're getting a bit emotional. We need some downtime. Let's take a break. Let's go off, do our own thing. I'm going to go to the gym, you go to the sauna, whatever, go do whatever it is you want to do. We'll come back, we'll reschedule. Cool. I may need a whole day to reschedule. I may need a week to reschedule. Cool. But we put a pin in it and we keep returning to this conversation needs to evolve. See, the thing is, and what I see a lot with men that I work with, is they really want someone to radically love them. But the way they want that to come across is that, and this comes back to the traditional gender roles, you're such a good boy. You're such a sweet boy. You're so perfect to me. Like, you're absolutely perfect just as you are. I got news for everyone. And Daniel's going to laugh his ass off. Hi, Daniel. Nobody is perfect, and nobody is perfect just as they are. There is perfection in your imperfection. That is true. But so many of us have shadows we are completely unconscious to. And so many of us, Dean, are tricking ourselves just like you are, right? And I say this with the most amount of love. It's like, you can keep going as you are. But if you keep turning up here to listen to me, I am going to tell you straight. You are creating your reality. When I look around at my dating life and I go, okay, who is this person that I'm looking at now? And how do they mirror me? How do they mirror what I asked for? How do they mirror my expectations? How do they mirror poverty, confidence, radical self-awareness, radical self-love? How do they mirror those things? How do they tell me about where I'm tracking? See, here's the thing about being an individual and about dating, is that it's actually an individual sport. Everything that is happening to you in your dating life is a reflection of you. Everything is about what you are radiating. And it might be hard to see some of it, right? It might be really hard to see some of it. And this is why I don't like the traditional gender role model. I like it from the perspective of it can show you how unconsciously we pattern into relationship. And I think that's really cool. It can talk to us and show us a pathway out by understanding how the hormones are impacted by certain behaviors and bringing conscious awareness to those behaviors and then working with them as a team towards, well, I'm actually not here to make you feel safe, but I'm also not here to make you feel in danger. So we need to talk around that, right? I am here to love you, but not in the way that you want, but in the way that I give. Right? And those are different things, and people receive love in different ways. And to be honest, again, when it comes to receiving love and love languages and stuff like that, these are models that show us our unconscious behaviors. I see people giving me love in all sorts of ways. Do I have love languages? Not really anymore. And why do I not have love languages anymore? Because I'm happy to receive what someone wants to give me. And I can appreciate that giving me time, giving me attention, giving me gifts, appreciating me, recognition. They're all attempts at that. They're all intending that. And they are beautiful things of someone else's artistic expression within love. Cooking me dinner, whatever it is. But when I see someone need from me, boy, am I allergic. Boy, am I allergic to that. Now, in my work, that's what I do. That's one of the reasons I've become allergic to it in my love life. And so when I see someone need from me, it becomes a discussion. Now that is the kind of person I ask for in my love life, and it's what I get. Someone who can have the radical discussion with me. I may not have the capacity for that discussion right now. Guess what that means? I'm not going to be available because that's going to be the next thing that I need to do, and I need to put energy into it. That's not, I don't love you. That's not, I don't want to see you. That's right now I don't have capacity for it. Other things are going on in life. And you don't get access to me just because we're in a relationship and you decide you need attention. And you're going to find that's really common in women over the age of 40 as well, is that they love themselves so much, they draw a line under what they have time for and when. Whereas when you're 20, 30 years old as a woman, you're so willing to do what, and again, with love, Dean, I say this, what Dean has been doing. You're so willing to self-sacrifice. You're so willing to do whatever it takes to get the man, that you keep setting stuff aside. Now, do all women do that? No. I really admire some women who don't do that, but who are younger. because I was way too nice, you know? And now that I'm less nice, guess what? More people love me for exactly who I am. And that's insane. It's insane that I'm more prickly. I'm more of a cactus than I ever was. And I get more hugs than I ever wanted, you know? So look, the traditional gender roles, I think it's really interesting, but I think what it's encouraging is I'm going to do this for my man and he's going to do this for me. And then we don't have to grow up and fill ourselves up. You're going to have to fill yourself up if you want to have a great life and if you want to have a great relationship, because at some point she's not going to be able to give you what you've always needed and he's not going to be able to give you what you always needed. And at that point where they don't give it, you become disappointed in the other and your relationship starts breaking down. And worse still, kids have grown up being really, really good at determining what they need to do in order to make their environment safe, whether they enmesh by doing everything for the other, or whether they throw their toys around to get attention. That's the narcissistic kind of play, right? It's like, I'm just going to drop bombs everywhere so that you pay attention to me. They've learned how to manipulate. So when you first get into a relationship, a lot of the time, you are not seeing the truth of what that person is going to give you. You are seeing what they're trying to give you in order for you to give them what they want. And again, I come back to that, Dean, that's what you're doing. You're giving them what you want, which it's your child wound coming out. And so if you want that to change, you're going to have a look at that. Anyway, people, lovely to have you here. I see Grace in the room. Grace, we need to catch up. Like, comment, subscribe. Sit down, slap yourself in the face and go, how am I not giving to myself what I need to give to myself in this life to walk out there and be whole, right? Ask yourself that question today. Where am I not whole? That is a life-changing question. It has changed my life radically from a mug that got walked all over and got horribly abused to someone who does not have that in her life anymore. I have beautiful people around me. Yep, we're all leaking and bleeding in different ways, but we are having the conversations and we are changing. Have a great day. By the way, people don't change the way you want them to, but when they change, it's amazing.